Good afternoon to you and welcome to yet another exciting edition of your favorite business development program on radio, Masterclass. It is time for class. It is time for Masterclass. Masterclass is powered by Joy Business and brought to us by Goyle. Goyle, they say good energy. Goyle, Yenara, Yedia. Masterclass comes your way every Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. and runs all the way through to 2:15 p.m. here on your superstation Joy 99.7. My name is Yaw Anim Barnafo and I'll be your host for today's edition of Masterclass. In the last couple of weeks, we've started a very interesting conversation in the area of mental health. In the first week of the conversation, we sort of introduced the conversation: what is mental health, what mental health is not, what mental illness is, what mental wellness is. And we had a great conversation there. Last week, when we came back on that conversation, we looked into a bit more detail about the internal and external causes of low mental wellness, what the warning signs were, what the symptoms were, what the implications were, and we even talked about a few of the ways to deal with it. We started to tease out some of the solutions. In today's conversation, we'll take the conversation a bit further, and we'll be looking a bit more into the solutions and how you can deal with the issues of mental stress. If there are any questions you had from last week's session and you were unable to ask them, when we do get interactive and we open the phone lines, by all means, do pick up that phone and give us a call and let's share some ideas. Like we always say here on the show, life is too short to make all the mistakes yourself. So pick up that phone, give us a call, send us your message when we put out those numbers and be a part of the conversation. Back in the studio with us is our resource person who's been sharing some thoughts with us, a very accomplished psychologist who's also the founder of the Crossbridge Consult and an author. She's written a number of books. She's an organizational psychologist. She's also a board member and a member of the Organizational Center for Ghana and a faculty member. She's also a Gestalt practitioner with over 25 years of experience. She's authored the following books: Don't Lie to Me. Don't Lie to Me. Another one she's authored is Pause, Change is Here. Pause, Change is Here. The next one she's written is Next Level Thinking. Next Level Thinking. And she's also written a book entitled Entrepreneurship. She's also helped to train over 10,000 entrepreneurs across different African countries. My guest for this afternoon is Akosua Agyeman Mark-Okai. Akosua, well, you're welcome back to the conversation.
Thank you.
Breathing and taking your time and calming down in last week's presentation. Maybe perhaps I'll just let you get straight to it. Let's do a quick recap, if you will.
Okay.
For those who missed the show. For those who are also watching us on Facebook, we're streaming live. By all means, we have some slides to share like we always do. Follow us on Facebook. You can watch us live on Facebook or follow those slides as well for flow of thought and for those of you who also want to make some notes. So let's do a quick recap, if you will, of last week.
Good.
And then we go straight into today.
So, good afternoon to everybody. As usual, I'm just reminding you that the purpose of this is to help you as individuals in the world and make a shift so that you become better performing employees. So a recap of last week was that we looked at the causes and the warning signs of the individual and also the workplace. We didn't quite finish that, so we'll touch on it quickly. And then I asked that everybody get some homework done, write down the warning signs that you identify with, and also think about yourself and see whether you are also perceived as giving stress. And then we talked about what happens inside you when you are stressed out and which makes it dangerous. And we've talked about prolonged presence of cortisol and adrenaline and all that in your blood, which are supposed to give you the impetus to start something, but not supposed to be there all the time. And that's what gives you all these other diseases and so on. Okay, so then we said that we talked about the individual, the warning signs for individuals, and in the workplace, the warning signs that you do have a stressful environment is the fact that if you have increased absenteeism, if you find that for no reason that you can point to, there's low morale, there's decreased productivity, there are increased costs in your finance section associated with customer and employee complaints, and I remember once we had an assessment meeting in somewhere, and we were talking about how to get them to work together as a team and so on. And as a Gestalt practitioner, my colleague said, "Oh, with all this talk going on, I feel like I'm getting a headache." Then somebody said, "A headache? That's all we have here. You should look at our course." And immediately the conversation shifted, and it just showed the increased costs that we're having in terms of health-related issues. And then, of course, when you find that your brand is beginning to decline, it's time for you to look at what is it? Is it because employees are bad mouthing it, or other people are bad mouthing it? So you cannot have business as usual if you do want to have a more conducive environment that will increase productivity. So that is what I have to say about the warning signs. As I said, we have a program coming on Saturday. If you want the full details and how to go about it and practice, would encourage you. We still have a few places, and so you can come on Saturday. I'll give you the details. So now today we are looking at staying up when you are down. What do I do now that I know all the signs and what to do and what's happening to me and so on? How can I reverse the situation? Remember that stress cannot be totally eliminated.
Right.
All right? So it must be managed intentionally by you. Nobody can do it for you. It has to be by you. And I must congratulate those individuals who have reached out to us and have told us, look, I have an issue, I don't know what to do. So that's a very, very, this is the first giant step. And so congratulations. And I would encourage other people to also reach out, because, it's just the beginning. And so we can take some preventive steps. Okay. So now I want us, for those of you who are watching on Facebook, you'll see that there's a diagram which says that potential, now the word is potential stresses are unavoidable, but you choose to interpret them as stressful.
Can you say that again?
Potential. They are all in a state of being potential. They are unavoidable. They will occur around you.
They're naturally occurring in the environment
all the time, all kinds of things. But you will choose to interpret them as stressful.
I'm smiling because road rage comes to mind as an example.
Yeah.
Someone crosses you and they're not supposed to cross you, and you get upset. You can choose to just breathe and say it will pass.
Yes.
And just drive away. 2 minutes, you're gone past the point.
Yes.
Or you stand there and start throwing your hands and get into a fist fight.
Or you can even empathize with the other driver. He's probably under some kind of pressure, poor thing. Let me say a prayer for him. And then
Which brings to bear the point you made last week when we spoke about the fact that we see physically with our eyes, but we hear with our minds.
Yeah.
And so clearly it's how you interpret what has happened that determines its effect on you or otherwise.
Exactly.
I think that's key, and we just needed to drive home that point.
So seeing through your eyes, you see all these things, but then you see with your mind because of the interpretations that you put to it. So whatever potential stressor is out there, either internally or externally, you interpret it because of your experiences, your beliefs, your values, the way you see life. And then you react accordingly, okay? Now, when this reaction can be put into three. I know we've given stress a bad name, but there is some good stress that is good. And we'll look at that next week and how we use that to increase performance at the workplace. So it's very important.
Good stress.
Good stress.
I'm hearing that for the first time.
It's called eustress. And so we'll see how we can use that to increase our performance. And then, so we either do that, we either use the good stress, or we manage the stress that we are going through, or of course we become overwhelmed and distressed, and go into all the negativities we've been talking about. Okay. All right. So now let's look at some of the things that we can do. The first thing that we must learn to do is to breathe properly. We've heard, you hear people say breathe, and you're wondering what all this breathe matter about. But there is a correct way of breathing and not breathing, as far as stress is concerned. If you are taking, the facilitator or whoever will say, breathe slowly, and you continue taking short, shallow breaths. That will not help. In fact, it will make you more agitated. You must learn how to have deep, slow breathing. The purpose of it is to tell your brain is telling your body, look, there's no problem, there's no threat, calm down. It's sending messages to your body.
Be calming down.
Yes, be calming down and stop. But when you don't take these deep breaths, then you are, compounding the problem. So
let me just ask this question quickly. I mean, I've waited a bit, but just so you can explain this a bit better. It's also for them an indication of taking the matter seriously. And I'm speaking directly to entrepreneurs and our business owners. Sometimes, when they take something too seriously, they're overthinking something, or maybe it's truly serious. Maybe the company is going to shut down. Maybe it's the bank calling, repossess and all of that. How does a business owner under that amount of stress understand that me taking it easy is not synonymous to me not taking the matter seriously?
Yes,
so if I calm down, it doesn't mean I'm not taking it seriously.
No.
How? Just explain that point for me.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's say you're a business owner and your payment, debt payment, the stress. You remember I said I did mention the little good part
stress,
of it.
yes.
Gives you that impetus for you to start thinking of alternatives. What can I do? Should I go to the bank? Should I reschedule? Should I do that? You should have that kind of pressure instead of going into denial and not do anything at all and aggravate the problem, which increases your stress, and you are going around in circles. And so that good stress part of it should move you into action in the positive way. And we'll look at some of the things that we can do further. And the first thing, like I said, is to breathe, to calm down. Because you cannot think properly when you're agitated, all right? And then remember that when you're stressed out, you are in that flight and fight mode, which is actually activating your sympathetic nerve systems. Whereas if you calm down, you get into your parasympathetic nerve system, which helps you to calm down and puts you into a relaxed state. You need to be there to be able to act properly.
Oftentimes you hear the statement, let's say you're in an aircraft and, great turbulence, really. And you ask, how can you be so calm? I don't know if you've heard that question before.
Yes.
How can you be so calm in all of this?
Yes. And that is why you have to train your brain. It just doesn't happen naturally. You have to take steps, and that's why the workshop is so important, because it's going to teach you. You yourself, at the end of the workshop, will have a plan. When I'm under stress, because you'll experiment with a number of things and you choose which one is best for you. It's not a one size fit for everybody. All right. So it's very important that that person who is calm has just learned to train themselves that, hey, we are up here. There are two things: we either die or we live. So why worry? I can't do anything about it. So why waste energy screaming and all that sort of thing? But most of us will fall into that mode because we feel threatened. But you have to teach yourself to calm down when and declutter your brain, and I'll show you a picture which shows how our brain can get so cluttered because there's so many things happening at the same time around us. And then breathing also helps you to concentrate. in just start, we'll say figure ground. Everything goes into the background, and there's one thing that becomes figural for you, and that is your breath, just the in and out. So a few minutes ago, you would have been thinking, oh, I can't do this, what time it is, I'm late, and so on. You start breathing. Then you slowly, the other things begin retreating because you're saying concentrate on your breath. And you see that you're just now thinking about the in and outs, and everything goes into the background. And this gives you sharper thinking. And next week we'll look at how just focusing, which we call quantum zero effect. We steal it from the quantum physics and neuroscience realm, as to how focusing can improve your performance because of what's happening in your body. So sharper thinking, because as you breathe and you focus, more blood is sent to your brain, your thinking area, and then you're able to make a better decision. But if you don't do that, your decisions become impaired. So number one, remember today we are talking about, so what can I do? Okay, so breathe, that's one. Now, when you're in that calm stage, step one is you make the choice and take, or you make the choice to take action. It's a choice, and it is based on you. Yeah. All right? So the first thing, and that's why I congratulated those who have actually reached out and we're talking to, is to acknowledge what is, or that acknowledge that I'm under stress, and then we find out together what is the cause. Yeah. No, you have to find the cause.
What's the cause?
Yes. Otherwise, we'll treat the symptoms. But we want to know the cause so that the root is taken out. Okay. The second thing is that when you have acknowledged that, and you know what is causing the stress, now you need to be able to anchor yourself on your self-image. Now, when I say anchor yourself, it's like a ship. When ships are anchored in the harbor, the tide will shift it and it will shift a bit, but beyond a certain point, it won't go. So in the same manner, when you anchor yourself, your mental wellness, you know that these are my beliefs, these are my values, this is what I know about myself. Don't go around comparing yourself to somebody who you think is better than you. Okay, it's great to admire people and aspire to get there. I haven't gotten there yet, but it doesn't mean I'm a bad person. All right? So this you can only get by writing out. I wonder how many of us do have, a list of the positive things around us or about us. All right? What all the positive things, you write it down about yourself. What is your intellectual positives? What are the physical things around me about me that is positive? I remember Odi once says that akwanukra ne niefe na soefe na noefe now kambo manye. So concentrate on those parts of you. You might not have a nice year, but you have a nice nose. Write it down. Look at your social connections, your relationships, how or what you're good at, and then again spiritually, how are you doing spiritually, or are you in a flux or whatever? Write all this. Don't write anything negative. We are dealing with the positives, and you have to have this ingrained in your mind, because if you are sitting somewhere, you're not now going to look for the list, but you have done the list and you know it. What are your values? What are your beliefs? I always say that, the temptation to be corrupted by money comes at the time when you are most broke. But if you don't have values, it's so easy. We say, praise the Lord. I mean, this is answered prayer, And so you have to have all these things fixed in your mind before it happens. So the next thing I want us to look at, you've acknowledged, you've anchored yourself. All right. Now, identify the gap between what is happening. Okay, I'm supposed to perform. I'm supposed to reach my targets, and we are not getting there. And these are the consequences. So what can I do? Instead of sinking into, I can't think anymore. What else? all that kind of talk we have. You say, okay, the alternatives, or you talk to other people. You are open-minded about it, okay? And then you're intentional in your decision to work it out, either by asking for help or by yourself. Then when you've identified the gap and the intentional steps that you're going to take to close it, ensure that you have some social support network. And at the workplace, you can't be a loner at the workplace. You must have some kind of social network at the workplace to support you. Remember, we're talking about workplace. But of course, you'd have your own personal, social support network too. And then the fifth thing is what I call, introducing the light into the darkness. And that is when you find that people will listen to music, and it's a great thing that you have all this music going on before we start the master class. It calms everybody down. You have to learn how to laugh at yourself and have some, humor around you.
Some people take themselves and other things too seriously.
Too seriously. Yeah. And that's where it comes, do you know who I am, and that sort of thing. But look, hey, you are just a normal human being, and it's just by grace that you are, extra special. And so what kind of activities can I do? What kind of relaxation? And I will, when we go, we'll just learn some quick tips that you can do to help you. And then you have to commit to yourself to persist. It's not going to be easy trying to reverse what is happening to you. All right? So you must commit to persist. You must persist in creating and practicing the new behaviors that you know are helping you. Okay, if you don't make that move, that's why at the beginning I said step one is that you are making a choice to take action. If you don't, you won't know the new behaviors that will help you, the new habits that you have formed, and the actions that you must take. Yeah. So remember that every single one of us is here on earth for a purpose. And you are in that workplace for a purpose. And you have to do something before you die. You can't leave that organization, even if you hate it, be remembered for something. Because that's the time, it's your life that you're spending there, and you can never retrieve it.
The memories that you're creating.
Exactly. What will you be remembered for when you
The guy who always said no. The guy who always was controversial.
Exactly.
The guy who always had a smile.
Yes. You have to choose. Yeah. What do you want to be remembered for? You are not just occupying space in that workplace. You're being paid to perform a certain function. And it is up to us to be excellent at it. We must remember that we are accountable and responsible for the time that we spend in workplaces. It's not a routine. Like, people just arrive and they leave. And you ask them, exactly what have you done? But a good thing would be that every week you can tell yourself, I've improved about 4%.
I was able to do a bit more this week than I did last week.
Exactly. So even if you put it at 4% a month, that's 48, nearly 50% by the end of the year. Yeah. But you must tell yourself that that's what I want. It is not natural. You must be intentional about it. So that's step one. Step one is all the plenty things I've talked about. Step two is that you must refocus. Remember, you are in this negative state and you want to come back to being positive. For those of you on Facebook, you see two pictures. One guy has his mind full of all sorts of things. He's thinking about his car. He's thinking about, his house, alcohol that he's having, his children. His mind is full. His mind is full.
I see his socks in there.
Exactly.
Music.
And all sorts of things.
His laptop.
And he's carrying all this.
Yeah.
Compared to the other person, he's just concentrating. In fact, the dog, he's just concentrating on the trees that are immediately in front of him in the present. That is what is happening. That is what he's concentrating on. So remember that when you are sad, it is associated with you being stuck in the past. Something happened and you failed, or you didn't impress, or whatever. And negativity, that happened in the past, but you are stuck there. That's why overthinking comes. You keep on playing it over and over in your mind. I should have done this. I should have said this, and so on. And you're just going around in circles, and it makes you sad. Whereas anxiety is associated with the future. It hasn't happened yet. But here you are, imagining things that could happen. And we are petrified. It freezes us, and we can't move on. Because you don't want to move into the future because this could happen.
Yeah.
So you can imagine how that affects your performance.
Because sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes it may never happen.
It may, most times, not even sometimes, most times. And if it's something is going to happen, okay, what can I do to reduce the negative effect? That's about planning. That's about risk taking. All right? And I call this the SAM thing because mindfulness is the state in which you're supposed to be in, because it's associated with the present and the now, right now. How am I feeling? I feel bad. I hate my job. So and so. Great. But what else can I do to turn it around?
Well, I mean, one thing I always say similar to what you're saying is, this is where we are. Where do we go from here?
A problem or just coming
Coming
out. So it's normal. So you have to train yourself to be able to deal with these things, life events that happen. You know, no matter how devastating it must be, you have the capacity, you have the strength.
I mean, it's happened. You can't go back and change it. What you could change is what's happening now, which will become your past in the next 5 minutes.
There's no point crying over spilt milk.
Yeah.
All you can do is to clean it off
Yeah.
and get another bottle or find some money to go and buy another one.
So essentially, I mean, if you worry and you're sad and you're moping over the past, what you're doing is you're creating a new past. Because in the next few minutes, what you're doing now, which is in the present, will become the past.
Yes, and it plays over and over and over again. And it's not just playing for today, tomorrow, the next day, the next week. And you're there, and you're just stuck in it. You're not moving. And so it's important that we note what is making me sad and what can I do so that it doesn't happen again. Mindfulness is very important. What is in the present and what can I do? Okay? All right. So we have plants, little plants that we encourage people to put on their tables in the office.
Within the workspace.
Within the small plant. Now, every time you see that you are scattered in your mind, switch your mind to that plant and start thinking about that plant. How does it smell? How does it look? Would it taste nice if I broke a bit of... You are beginning to concentrate on one thing.
On something else.
Yes.
Other than the problem.
It could be the air conditioner in your room or whatever. But I like the plant because it's a live object. Every time something is happening to it. And you see that you can relate your life to it. Okay? So it's very important that there's something that you can focus on and shift. Remember, I said that the figure ground, everything goes into the background and this one thing. And the focusing also makes you, apart from concentrating, makes you think better. You know, it's just like when we used to go Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, and you take a mirror and the sun rays and you put it over a piece of paper and then you get the fire started. Yes. It only happens because the light is being concentrated onto one spot.
That's correct.
But otherwise, it's a spectrum. And so are the many things in our minds, like the first guy, and say, look, okay, all you things, I don't have you now. Now what is in front of me is the trees. I need to concentrate on that. So you can see why intentionality becomes very, very important.
Indeed.
It is not natural. So use your senses to relieve stress. What am I seeing about this plant? Do I hear anything from this plant? How does it smell? How would it taste? If I touch it, how does it feel? You know, you are shifting your energies
from the problem.
Forever. It's just for you.
For those few minutes, so you can calm down.
You calm down so that you can tackle the problem. Okay? So that's two. Number one, I said that you have to look at yourself and make a choice. You have to, again, make a choice to refocus. And then number three is that you reframe the situation. Instead of, my boss doesn't like me, why don't you say, why does my boss like other people and not me? And what can I do to be like? This is not about boot licking. We don't encourage that. But you might be the kind of person, your boss wants things written down. And you also tend to want to talk about things and not write them down. Obviously, there's going to be conflict. So you need to be able to be present with what is around me, how is it operating, and how can I use it, to perform my work. It's very, very important.
And it may not work all the time, okay, but what other people have done, and because we've been talking about this quite a bit, having issues with you. Most people find it very difficult to do, but it works if you're able to do. Just go to the person and have a chat.
Yeah, that's a strategy.
If they'll talk to you, just go to them and say, "Can I talk to you? Can we sit and have a chat?" I seem to rub you wrong all the time. Is there something I can do differently?
You see, but that's just being judgmental. Because you have already, maybe he doesn't notice.
So however you say, just have a chat.
Yes, so have a chat, but there's a proper way of going about it to get results.
Exactly.
Because he can just feel threatened at that point and immediately say, no, I don't have anything like that. Exactly, and that's the end of the conversation,
Right.
But you want a resolution.
Indeed.
You want a solution.
Indeed.
And so there's a right way about going, and we can't go into all that. That's why I'm saying that you should come to the workshop, because you learn these things. In reframing, now reframing is very important. You remember last week I told you this guy who got robbed on the streets of London, who says, oh, that's an interesting experience. I've never been robbed. Whereas you could be, shouting all over the place. So learn to reframe the situation. Okay, that this is a lot of work, but it's challenging for me. I'll stretch myself and see how much I can do. Immediately you're diffusing the situation. So reframing or breaking the pattern of always thinking negatively. Sometimes people are just negative unconsciously. They've had a bad experience with a particular person who was in a red shirt in the past. It's stuck in their subconscious. Every time they see somebody with a red shirt, it says danger, danger, danger. So if you are not even aware, that's what everybody who comes in your way, or even when you're interviewing somebody, the person appears in a red shirt, immediately you strike the person off. But what you have to do is to decide that you are going to, it's a closed mind versus an open mind. So like somebody said, don't give me the facts, I've already made up my mind. That is a closed mind attitude. You don't even want to know the facts, but you want to live in your perception. And that is what is important for you. Another thing is that the opposite side of it, if you have a closed mind, don't give me the facts, I already made up my mind, is I'm open to alternatives, possibilities. Who can I talk to? Where can I find new ideas from? Okay? And then, of course, something happens and say, this is a barrier. The word barrier gives you it's stopping me.
Yeah.
But why don't you think of the thing as a hurdle instead of a barrier? Because hurdles, you can jump over it. You can even knock it down and walk over it.
You can shift it to the side.
Shift it to the side, or move around it, So reframe. Instead of thinking of that, oh, I'm not a good person. Everybody says I'm not a good person, and so on and so forth. Why don't you think about it in that I'm not good yet, but I will be?
And give yourself room to improve.
Exactly.
I'm sure I know you have a lot more to share with us. I'm sure that time will allow us a bit of that. But if you've just tuned in, this is Masterclass here on your superstation, Joy 99.7. We get interactive. Superstation Joy 99.7. We're interactive right now. Numbers to call 0302216541. That's 0302216541. You can also send us your comments on WhatsApp on 05511119997. That's 05511119997. Numbers to call 0302216541. Here talking about mental health in the workplace with Akosua Agyeman Mark-Okai. Pick up that phone. Let's hear your thoughts. If you have any motor vehicle of any kind, Goyle has some great news for you. Your oil marketing company of choice, Goyle, keeps making life ever so convenient. Goyle now accepts Momo for all fuel purchases. Just remember to Momo it at Goyle. Goyle, good energy. Goyle, Yenara, Yedia. Phone lines are still open, 0302216541. I think we have just a few more pointers to share, don't we? So let's just go to them while we wait for the phone lines to ring. Yes.
Great. So great. Just remember, be grateful for your life. Be grateful. Wake up. Sometimes you wake up and you're in a bad mood. Just shake that off by thinking again of that frame that you have already written. Thank God for, yourself, the people in your life, what you can do. Learn to relax. Have exercise. Just walk around a bit, acknowledge what are these feelings that I'm having now and what can I do about them. And then track your thoughts. If you see it going to negative, bring it back. Give it an alternative. Okay, so that's one area that or one method you can use. Great, remember that. And then there's the other one, which is farms. So great farms. Okay, now forgive people, release people, get rid of the anger and the resentment. Ask for help. We all need somebody. Be resilient. That is the ability to recover and bounce back. You will, rise again. So don't stay down. And then be mindful. I've talked about that. Don't get stuck.
If at first you don't succeed, try again.
Exactly. Keep trying. It's like you learn that I shouldn't do it this way anymore. And you eliminate that and try something else. So be mindful and stay in the present and what can be done. And then you must sleep. One of the things that we do when we are really stressed, we don't get some sleep. And in the workshop, we teach you how to have sleep, break that pattern, what associations you must have. Remember that when you don't sleep, your body is not repairing itself. You are keeping your cortisol, and the immune system is also regulated when you sleep. So now let's do quick tips. I'm in a meeting. I see that my stress is rising. Okay, breathe. We've talked about that. Breathe is important. You can quickly get out of the room, go and wash your face with cold water to refocus you. You can press your thumb and forefinger together, just like this, your thumb and your forefinger. And just keep pressing it. There are pressure points. We'll explain that when you come for the workshop. If you don't come for the workshop, you're going to miss a lot. But we only have a few places left. And then another thing is you must learn to massage. Just massage your fingers, from the base just down. Just keep massage, and you'll see that you're calming down.
Will stress balls help in this case?
Yes.
People have stress balls in the office and they have all these things that they press.
Yes.
When they're stressed out.
See, because it's activating certain points in your body that is telling your body slow down, calm down, and do this. And simple things like even blowing on your thumb through a closed, mouth.
Okay.
So that's in the meeting. You're just doing this. Of course, nobody's watching you. You don't know what you're doing, but you're actually lowering your stress level. Or you can even press this part of your hand, your web part, with your thumb and your finger, just massage that. And you begin to calm down. Of course, learn how to say no to things you cannot do. And then if, of course, you are not in a meeting, you're by yourself, you can listen to your music.
Yeah.
So I think that with this, we've had some quick tips, great farms, your quick tips, and the first three that I had. So next week, we are going to look at how do I use the good stress to improve on performance. You're at work because of performance. Anything else does not matter. So come on Saturday, 18th February. Come to the workshop. A workshop is talking about mental and emotional. You remember here we just talked about mental
health,
and we
yes.
said that there's a totality of it, but we're doing mental and emotional. And why the two are so connected. You know, the more emotion you connect with a particular thought, the more it has effect on you.
Right.
All right. If you imagine when you first had your job, how excited you were, and you were in love with the company and the things they do, and then
You go to work early and you stay late.
after a while,
you go on Saturday.
that same job becomes a headache for you. But how do you stay in love with your job so that you continue to? Because you release other hormones also, the good hormones. You know,
Dopamine.
Dopamine.
Oxytocin.
Exactly.
I did a bit of write up on that. Maybe I'll share it next week.
Yes. and so then all those are, and you're going around being happy when everybody else doesn't know what to do. So it's possible. So with that is what I have for you.
What numbers to call for people who need to reach out to Crossbridge? And also, but before we do that, I have a comment on social media. This one says, good day, Yaw and guests. Great discussions here. Yes, stress is killing a lot of people because most companies set targets for you to meet. And sometimes you can feel that you are stressed up. But what can you do because you also have work? This is from Sarah, a manful inside Winnipeg. Sarah, thank you so much for your comments there. This one is also, I've got another comment on social media. This one is Na at Laboni. Na says, is dementia... Okay, so now Akosua is a psychologist. Akosua is not a doctor. It says, good afternoon. Please, is dementia also in line with mental health or stress? Please kindly enlighten me. This is Na from Labon. Do you want to take that one quickly before we continue?
Okay, so dementia is also a state of illness that is associated with old age. But if you are getting it quite early, sometimes we will look at if it is stress that is causing you to forget because you want to go into denial and not act. You know, so that is where the association
So it's related.
is.
But now we'll put out the number for Crossbridge as well so that you can follow up and get some more information. This one is from Douglas. You're in school or doing something different that needs your salary support. What do you do? Because each and every day you think, how do I become a part of okay, he wants to know how he can join the program this weekend. That's the follow-up question. My point is that if you're in an institution where you don't know whether your contract is going to be renewed, but you need the job also, what do you do? How do you stop stressing?
Yeah, you remember we said that insecurity, job insecurity is one of the causes. And once you get into losing the job, why don't you think of what can I do to stay in this job that I become so exceptional that they can't do without me? You know, that's what we have to
change your mindset.
Yes, you change your mind and you learn to do the job so well that people are. I mean, when they're doing redundancies, there are always some people left. Why were those people left? So
why can't you be part of those who are left?
Exactly.
Why do you have to be part
it's
of
like
those
when
who are
people say, "Oh, there's no money," but people are going to the bank to make deposits. Where is your lot for the entrepreneurs? When
if people are making a windfall in this season where we say that there's no money.
Yeah.
This one is from Richard in OEB Estates, Richard Frimpong. He says, good afternoon. I hope you guys are doing well. Thank you for educating us.
Saturday at Crossbridge, which is located in Kitasi. Kitasi is just after Peduasa Lodge. All right. So if you get in touch on 0244 219 716, we will send you the details. It's from 9 to 4:30 on Saturday.
Can we put out the number again a bit more?
0244 219 716.
Okay.
Or you can go to crossbridgeconsult.org
Right. I've got a last comment from Ajua in Adenta. Ajua says, good discussion. Please, can a psychologist assist with anger management? Or is that for a clinical psychologist? What's the difference, please?
Now, if you say, can a psychologist, it's like saying, like, can an engineer? But they're civil engineers, they're electrical engineers, and so on. So it's the same thing with psychology. And with anger management, yes, a psychologist can help you, a clinical psychologist. So, like I said before, we work with a group of clinical psychologists also
At Crossbridge.
And these are licensed by the Ghana Psychological Council, you know. So you have the best.
So, Ajua, reach out to Akosua and team at Crossbridge, and they should be able to help you with some additional information and some support as well. What are we looking forward to in our conversation next week?
Okay, so next week, like I've said, we are just going to talk about, so how can I use stress to improve my work so that I become exceptional instead of becoming depressed. So that's why you have to keep staying up even when things want to get you down. You must learn it. It is a mindset for mental wellness. And you see that in spite of all that's going on, you will excel highly.
Wow. So much information there. This has been Masterclass. We've been talking here about mental health in the workplace with Akosua Agyeman Mark-Okai, who is also the CEO of the Crossbridge Consultant, also a professional psychologist. Thank you so much, Akosua, for coming on the show. Next week, hopefully, we come your way with another exciting edition of Masterclass. Thank you for listening.